Kobe Bryant, torn Achilles. In April 2013, the Lakers were clinging to playoff hopes, and Kobe Bryant was dragging them there almost single-handedly. He was logging massive minutes at 34 years old, pushing his body to the limit. Then, against Golden State, came the moment that changed everything. With just over 3 minutes left, Kobe drove hard, planted, and suddenly crumpled. The look on his face told the story. He knew something was wrong. Trainers rushed over, the crowd held its breath, and whispers of a torn Achilles spread instantly. But here's where the legend grew. Kobe refused to leave before shooting his free throws. Limping to the line, he drained both, then walked off on his own. It was pure defiance, the stuff of myth. The diagnosis confirmed it. Torn Achilles, season over. Recovery took months, and while he made it back, he was never quite the same player. That single moment symbolized the cruel reality of time catching up with even the fiercest competitors. Fans still debate whether the heavy workload caused it, and some wonder if the Lakers sacrificed his long-term health for a short-term playoff push. Either way, it remains one of the most unforgettable visuals in basketball, a superstar brought down, but not before proving his toughness one last time. And what happened in the years that followed would expose just how fragile dynasties can be. Yao Ming, fractured foot. During the 2009 Western Conference semifinals, the Houston Rockets finally had hope. Yao Ming, their 7'6" centerpiece, was battling the defending champion Lakers. He looked locked in, scoring inside, swatting shots, and keeping Houston in the fight. Then, in Game 3, everything collapsed. Yao landed awkwardly while chasing a rebound and grimaced immediately, but he refused to leave. Fans cheered as he limped back onto the floor, a warrior determined to finish. But after the game, doctors revealed the devastating truth: a hairline fracture in his left foot. The Rockets' playoff dreams were shattered, and so was Yao's career. He tried to come back, but the repeated stress fractures kept piling up. That moment against Los Angeles became the breaking point. The league lost one of its most marketable global stars, and China lost its icon far too soon. The NBA had never seen a player that big with that kind of skill, and the what if lingers even now. Had he stayed healthy, Houston might have had its championship window. Instead, fans were left with the cruel reminder that even the strongest giants can fall in an instant, and what happened to another rising star soon after would shock the entire basketball world. Penny Hardaway, knee tier. In the mid-1990s, Penny Hardaway was the future face of the NBA. A 6'7" guard with speed, vision, and flair, he was being groomed as the heir to Magic Johnson. Orlando had Shaquille O'Neal in the paint and Penny on the perimeter, and the Magic looked ready to dominate the decade. But in 1997, disaster struck. Playing against the Cavaliers, Penny planted awkwardly on defense and went down clutching his knee. The diagnosis was a torn cartilage injury that required surgery, and though he returned, he was never quite the same. Fans watched in disbelief as one of the league's brightest stars dimmed almost overnight. Penny tried multiple comebacks, even undergoing experimental procedures, but the explosiveness was gone. What made it worse was the timing. Shaq had already left for the Lakers, and Orlando's hopes of contending were crumbling. The Magic's golden era ended before it ever truly began. Penny's decline left fans wondering what might have been if that one play had gone differently. Even today, clips of his highlights circulate with the same comment: he could have been an all-time great. That moment wasn't just a knee injury, it was the end of a dynasty before it started. And the next story takes us to another superstar, whose career turned on one ankle twist that silenced an entire arena. Grant Hill, ankle break. By 2000, Grant Hill was more than just a star. He was being hailed as the next face of the league. A silky forward who could score, rebound, and pass. He was Detroit's franchise cornerstone and one of the most versatile players of his era. But in the first round of the 2000 playoffs against the Sixers, disaster struck. Hill, who had been battling a nagging ankle sprain, drove to the rim and suddenly collapsed in pain. Fans thought it was minor, but when he tried to continue, he could barely move. He checked out, clutching his ankle, and the Pistons' hopes evaporated on the spot. The injury turned out to be much worse than expected. A fractured ankle that required immediate surgery. Things spiraled from there. After a trade to Orlando, infections from follow-up surgeries nearly threatened his life, not just his career. Rumors spread about mismanagement by the Pistons' medical staff, and fans were left wondering if his career had been sacrificed for one more playoff run. Hill eventually returned years later, carving out a solid second act, but the trajectory had been changed forever. That single playoff collapse robbed fans of seeing his prime and reshaped the Magic's future. And what happened to another #1 pick that very same year showed how fragile even the most promising beginnings can be. Blake Griffin, broken kneecap. The The Clippers thought they had found their savior when they drafted Blake Griffin first overall in 2009. His mix of power and explosiveness made him look like a walking highlight reel waiting to happen, but before the season even began, fate intervened. In the final preseason game, Griffin went up for a routine dunk, landed hard, and immediately crumpled. X-rays revealed a broken kneecap, and the #1 pick's rookie year was over before it started. For fans, it was a gut punch. The Clippers' history of cursed luck seemed alive and well, and doubts about Griffin's durability spread instantly. He returned the following season and delivered on the hype, winning Rookie of the Year and creating Lob City. But that first injury set the tone for a career filled with questions about longevity. People still debate whether the Clippers training staff mishandled his recovery or if his explosive playing style simply doomed him from the start. What's undeniable is that the moment cast a shadow over his career, even during his peak. And the story of another highly drafted star's rookie season collapse proves how fragile potential can be. But first, only cool people are subscribed to this channel, so hit that subscribe button before we go any further. Danny Manning, torn ACL. The 1989 Los Angeles Clippers were desperate for a savior, and they thought they found him with Danny Manning, the #1 pick that year. Manning was a 6'10" forward with guard skills, and expectations were sky high. He gave the Clippers instant credibility and looked every bit like a franchise player. But just 26 games into his rookie season, it all unraveled. Manning went down awkwardly on a drive and immediately clutched his knee. The diagnosis was brutal, a torn ACL. Surgery sidelined him for the rest of the year, and the Clippers' fragile optimism was crushed. For fans, it was deja vu, another chapter in the cursed history of the franchise. Manning returned and had moments of brilliance, even earning all-star nods later in his career. But he was never the same dominant force he was projected to be. That one moment, his rookie season cut short, haunted him and the team for years. Some argue that if Manning had stayed healthy, the Clippers might have escaped their laughingstock label much sooner. Instead, that injury became symbolic of wasted opportunity. And the next case shows how even future megastars can be humbled in an instant by something as unpredictable as a shoe falling apart. Zion Williamson, shoe blowout. The hype around Zion Williamson at Duke in 2019 was unlike anything college basketball had seen in years. He was a human highlight reel, a powerhouse who seemed unstoppable. Then came the rivalry game against North Carolina, with the eyes of the nation locked on him. Just 33 seconds into the game, Zion planted his left foot to drive, and his Nike sneaker literally exploded. The entire crowd gasped as he slipped, sprained his knee, and crumpled to the floor. Cameras zoomed in on the shredded shoe, sparking instant controversy. Social media erupted, blaming Nike for the malfunction and questioning if Zion's weight and explosive style made him too much for standard footwear. Even former President Barack Obama, sitting courtside, mouthed, "His shoe broke." Zion missed several games, and though he returned to dominate, that one freak moment sent shockwaves across basketball. Nike's stock briefly dipped, and debates about whether players should risk college ball without pay went mainstream. The shoe blowout wasn't just a bizarre injury, it became a symbol of how fragile even the most hyped careers can be. And the very next story shows how quickly injuries can strip away postseason dreams from even the most gifted scorers in the league. Tracy McGrady, knee collapse. Tracy McGrady was one of the purest scorers the NBA has ever seen, but his postseason resume never matched his talent. In the 2008 playoffs against the Spurs, he carried the Rockets on his back, looking like a man determined to rewrite his legacy. Then came the crushing moment. Driving to the basket, McGrady suddenly buckled, his knee giving out as he grabbed it in visible pain. The crowd went silent, sensing that the Rockets' chances just evaporated. The injury forced him to miss the remainder of the series, and Houston fell short once again. For McGrady, it was a devastating reminder that his body could not handle the weight of expectations. Fans remember his 13 points in 33 seconds, his scoring titles, his effortless brilliance, but also this playoff collapse that ended any chance of him ever reaching the finals as the centerpiece. Rumors spread about whether the Rockets pushed him too hard, and critics labeled him unlucky in the postseason. The truth is simpler: one bad landing changed everything. And what happened to another star battling health issues soon after proved that sometimes it isn't just the body that betrays you, it can be life itself. Alonzo Mourning, kidney crisis. By the year 2000, Alonzo Mourning was at the peak of his career. He was the reigning Defensive Player of the Year and the face of the Miami Heat. Then, in a shocking twist, he collapsed during practice for Team USA ahead of the Olympics. Doctors discovered a rare kidney disease, one so severe that it threatened not only his career, but his life. Mourning was sidelined immediately, and the news stunned the basketball world. Fans couldn't believe it. He looked like a warrior on the court, yet his body was quietly betraying him. The Heat's championship aspirations fell apart as Zoe missed the entire season. Though he made a comeback after a kidney transplant, his dominance was never the same. That single collapse symbolized how fragile even the toughest players can be when faced with something beyond their control. The incident also sparked debates about player health screenings and long-term care, changing how teams approached medical risks. Mourning's return years later helped Miami win a championship, but that moment of collapse remains unforgettable. And the next case would prove just how fast a franchise can lose its leader to an injury that shifted an entire team's future overnight. Danny Granger, knee breakdown. In 2012, the Indiana Pacers were on the rise, and Danny Granger was their unquestioned leader. An all-star forward with a smooth jumper and clutch scoring, he was the centerpiece of a team that looked ready to challenge the East's elite. But in the playoffs against the Knicks, everything shifted. In Game 5, Granger went down suddenly, clutching his knee without contact. The crowd froze, knowing something wasn't right. He limped off, and the Pacers carried on, but the damage was done. The diagnosis? A severe knee injury that would cost him not just the series, but his career trajectory. Granger missed most of the following season, and when he returned, Paul George had already taken the reins as the new franchise star. In the blink of an eye, Granger went from centerpiece to forgotten piece. Fans still debate what could have been if his knee hadn't given out that night, as Indiana seemed poised to build a contender around him. Instead, his sudden fall marked the beginning of the Pacers' shift into a new era, and what happened to another MVP just a few decades earlier showed how even the league's brightest stars can have their careers undone by a single step. Bill Walton, broken foot. The year was 1978, and Bill Walton had just delivered the Portland Trail Blazers their first championship. He was the reigning MVP, a revolutionary big man who could pass like a guard and dominate inside. The future looked limitless, but in the playoffs that spring, Walton came up hobbling. He tried to push through, but scans revealed the truth. A broken foot. It wasn't just one injury, it was the beginning of years of pain and setbacks. That single fracture robbed the league of what could have been a dynasty. Portland's title defense crumbled, and Walton's career spiraled into surgeries, rehabs, and constant frustration. He later had a short resurgence in Boston, winning 6th Man of the Year, but everyone knew the truth. His prime had been stolen. Fans still argue that Walton might have gone down as the greatest big man ever if not for that moment. It was cruel and abrupt, a collapse that reminded everyone that even the most gifted players aren't immune to one misstep. And the injury we're about to revisit years later would leave fans in Madison Square Garden absolutely stunned. Baron Davis, knee rupture. By 2012, Baron Davis wasn't the explosive star he once was, but Knicks fans still loved the veteran point guard for his leadership and grit. Then came the Eastern Conference playoffs against the Miami Heat. In Game 4, Davis brought the ball up court on a routine possession, and suddenly his knee buckled grotesquely. He fell to the floor screaming, clutching his leg, as players from both teams looked away in horror. The injury turned out to be a ruptured patella tendon, one of the worst knee injuries possible. His career was effectively over in that instant. The Knicks' playoff hopes vanished with him, and Madison Square Garden was left in stunned silence. Fans couldn't believe the gruesome collapse, and the replays were almost unwatchable. What made it worse was that Davis was simply trying to steady the team, not chasing glory. Yet fate handed him one of the most brutal endings in NBA history. His injury became symbolic of the Knicks' cursed postseason luck, and what happened next would remind everyone that sometimes basketball's most painful moments don't come from the stars of today, but from legends whose careers could have been written entirely differently. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you are going to really love.